Good afternoon, my beautiful people. It's me again. We're going to have another attempt at trying to do a video about my darling husband, Alan. The man I spent the better part of 26 years with. So, let me tell you a little bit of a backstory. What happened, I married the first time when I was 17, because I'm a dick. We all have our strange ways when we're young and foolish. And almost immediately after I married my first husband, I started a job at Clark's Shoes. And just after I turned 18, so I'd been in the job about 4 or 5 months maybe, we got a new auditor who used to come and obviously check the stock, check the books, blah blah blah. And the new auditor that we got was a man called Alan German. So into my already quite sad life at that time, because I was not very happy with my first husband, came this 6'3", slim, blue-eyed, funny bastard. And he really was funny. And we made friends. Alan was also married at that time to his then second wife. I was the third Mrs. German. I think Alan just liked wedding cake personally, but there you go. So into my life came this new friend, and when our marriages started to head down the toilet quite rapidly at around about the same time, which was ironic, what do? You talk to your friends. And so Alan and I spent a lot of time talking about our problems and our issues and our misery. And my friend became my best friend, and I fell in love with my best friend. So we didn't do anything about this because, as I say, we were both still married. But I started seeing Alan when I was around 21. I was still living with my first husband at the time. So I was quite naughty, but such is life. So Alan, the man who gave me a huge amount of literature, introduced me to a huge amount of wonderful literature, introduced me to music that I probably would never have heard had I not been with him, and lived with me a life of adventure from the moment we started living together. Everything was an adventure. Our holidays were adventures. Even our marriage was an adventure. Everything was special with Alan, even the most simple things. Now this is my favourite photograph of Alan, and here he is at around about 5, before he got kicked out of the Cubs for being a naughty little boy, because he was a naughty big boy as well as a naughty little boy. And this is my absolute favourite picture of him. I think it's just wonderful. It sums him up entirely. This particular photograph, this is my favourite photograph of me and Alan, and I know it's quite strange because attracting flies again. You can't see our faces, but it's taken on Mathone Beach. I'm getting some hideous reflections on this. There we go. Mathone Beach under the castle walls, taken by Mark, who is staying with us, or staying with me currently. We've just had lunch. I made us a nice big fat Greek salad, which was yummy, with some tzatziki and some dolmades and some big fat green olives, which were very, very nice. Mark is now having a little nap to try and compensate for the fact that he's, well, we all ate quite a lot, and Dennis is having a little sit down outside on the balcony. So, other pictures of my beautiful husband. Beautiful to me. Possibly not to everyone, but beautiful to me. This was on our wedding day. And as you can see, the bride wore red because white was never going to cut it. And all of the photographs for our wedding, apart from the ones in the register office, were taken on the stage of the Stag Theatre in Sevenoaks, where we performed many, many times. And they were doing Murder on the Nile at the time we got married, which is why there is Tutankhamun's head growing out of mine. So it was a lovely set to have the photographs taken on. Now, our wedding, like everything else, was an adventure. Our friends, because we were heavily into the Amdram scene at the time, and me and 12 of our friends, including Mark, who's staying right now, sang. We did a musical review at the wedding reception, which is not the normal thing maybe, but was normal for us. Everybody had to wear something red to the wedding because I was wearing red, and I was insistent that it be visible. So if you turned up with red pants on, I told everyone I would make them drop their pants and show me. So everybody was good boys and girls and actually wore visible red because they knew I'd do it. When Alan and I got married, we'd been together 15 years. Mainly because we wanted to be sure. After everything that we'd been through previously, we wanted to be sure. And I think we always were sure, but hey, it was a great excuse to get dressed up, to have a wonderful party and to have a good time. And there is my favourite picture inside the Bentley. I look so young. I was 35, but I look so young. It's ridiculous. And Alan, bless him, even though he's doing his best to be James Bond, and I didn't have my glasses on, so to me he was James Bond. He looked great. I was so impressed with his choice of clothing. I thought it was great. It worked perfectly for what we did. Here we are with our best man, Peter, who gave almost a killer speech. Everybody was crying laughing. Everybody was crying laughing. Peter's extremely intelligent and very, very funny. So it was really nice. I must show you the back of my dress. This dress was made by the lady that made all our costumes for Sweet Charity when I played charity. And when the show was over, I asked her if she would like to make my wedding dress, which she did. And it doesn't look bad, bearing in mind the red silk came from Paris and the cream velvet came from Amsterdam, and both of them came from a curtain shop. Because I'm a cheapskate. But I thought the dress was gorgeous. I was so impressed with my dress. Here we have a couple of pictures of the Amdram group singing at the reception. Now, in the top photograph, I think we were singing a song from Jack the Ripper called What a Life. And the bottom one is a song from Les Miserables, and it's called Master of the House. And here you see my best friend from England, Tracy, who is this lady here, who had a baby 4 days before we actually got married. Kaylee was due after we got married, but she decided to make an appearance. And so she did. And that's her dad, Phil, who was the master of the house. And I was the mistress of the house. And it was a very funny song. And one more picture from the wedding, just to show you. This was a game we used to play. Now, if somebody belched, you had to do this, and the last person to do this got a slap from everybody else, and if you farted, you did that, and the same principle. Now, you can see from the photograph, everybody thought somebody had farted, apart from Alan, who thought somebody had belched, and Peter was going to get a slap. So there we are at our wedding on the fabulous set of Murder on the Nile, as I say. Cough up, Dennis. So, I told you that on the day of Alan's memorial I had photographs all around the house, on the windows, and I kept them all because, again, Mark, who is currently staying with me, printed all these off for me. I got a hair stuck to my lip. It's better. And this is just Alan being Alan at Pompeii. Alan was always in shorts. He lived in shorts, especially here. It was really hot. Here we are at my 40th. Alan looking vaguely drunk. Me the size of a small heffalump. This was the last photograph. Actually, that's a lie. This was the last but one photograph of me and Alan before he died. And in fact, the last photograph, he was kissing me. Here we are in Paris. This bridge, at one point, I mean, this you can see there's very few padlocks here, but the black one between Alan and I was our padlock, and this was before Paris decided to remove all the padlocks before the bridge fell down. Here we have Alan doing what Alan did best, making tea. I miss his tea so much, still. This was with our Greek amateur dramatic friends. We were lucky enough to be both presented with an award for all the work we did for this particular show, which was called Ποιος σκότωσε William, Don William, which means Who Killed William? And it was about an amateur dramatic society, strangely enough, murdering Romeo and Juliet, and they seriously did. Here's Baby at Sapienza, one of our favourite restaurants in Methone. Looking big-eyed. One of the many parties at our house with our friend Mandy, who is in fact the sister of Tracy. And if Alan could find something to stand in front of himself and make it look like his dick, he would do so. So I have several photographs like this. And again, it was Mark that took this photo. Now, this is taken outside a cafe called the Old School Cafe. It's a rock and roll bar, basically. And the gentleman in the middle, Alex, is the owner of the bar, and he had redecorated, and I played at the reopening of the bar. And here we have Alan comparing his tiny, tiny little tattoo, which he'd had reduced 50% because it was too big when it was its original size. And he's trying to compare his little tiny tattoo to, and that's just one of Alex's, because Alex is a biker boy who drove his Harley Davidson into the brand new cafe and broke up all the tiles. Clever boy. And this kind of sums Alan up. Because I am a sleepy creature, or I was a sleepy creature, he used to get bored. So he decided, in this particular day, he'd asked Peter and Sonia to send him a sarong. I don't know why, but he did. So there he is in his sarong, and on Facebook this was simply titled Bloke in a Skirt. My strange, lovely husband. And this is my favourite ever photograph he put on Facebook. Again, clearly had been bored because I was asleep, and he got the camera and essentially balanced it on his dick and took a photograph up over his belly. And it is still one of my favourite photos of Alan. I think it sums him up perfectly. Silly daft sod who always made me laugh. here we are, before we left England. This was at Alan's mother's 80th birthday, and even that we had to do dressing up for. So Alan was Glenn Miller and I was just a little wren. Bit breezy here today, so pardon the banging. And there's my beautiful darling man at Sabia Beach Bar, looking all cool, calm and collected, and as ever chattering away. So the man I miss so much. Oh, and one more photo. I did tell you, anything he could stick in, he could stand in front of and pretend it was his dick, or if it looked like he was taking a piss, this is what he would do. He was a child at heart, and it was one of the things I loved about him the most. I love the fact that he could enjoy anything. Now, a lot of people sent me things to read when I did the memorial, and I just want to read you a few little excerpts from different things. This is from my best friend Dimitra. I haven't known you as long as other people here, but I feel like I knew you for years. You were the person I came to for advice and help, and you were always there for all of us. Apart from this, you were also so much fun to be with and always made me laugh. You set an example for us to show that real love and altruism exist. And she says a few other things about the fact that he was like a father figure to her, because unfortunately Dimitra's father has health problems, and so he was not able to give her as much support as she really needed. And she found it in Alan, and it touched me that she felt that deeply about him. And she says, I promise that even though you're gone, my big sister, me, will always be part of my family as I am of hers. And she also called him Monkey Boy. This is from Mark, who is currently snoozing. I have to think, no, I lie, this is from Martin and Bianca. I have to think way back to the first time that we met each other. If I remember correctly, I would have been 16 or 17 years old when I was introduced to Uncle Alan, almost 25 years ago. And he goes on to say that he had Alan to thank for getting him into the career that he followed. And he talks about that there are many memories along the way, caravanning in France, helping with the snack bar in the snooker club, making music videos and plays, Christmas parties, legendary firework parties and dinner parties. A wonderful and appropriate wedding, wearing an item of red, but often just you, Tracy and I just sat together with sausage and mash. Which is true. This is from Mark. Right. Big breath. I knew Alan for some 14 years, and in that time got to understand and love his warped sense of humour pretty well. Probably one of the reasons we clicked as friends. And Alan pulled a huge prank on Mark the first time that he came to our house. Mark asked where the bathroom was, and Alan said, oh, it's upstairs, first door on the right. It's the one with the urinal in. So Mark went round to the party to everyone saying, oh, they've got a urinal. Oh my God, what is this all about? Only to go upstairs to the bathroom and discover that no, we didn't have a urinal. And Mark goes on to say, mind you, I managed to prank him a few times. We were in Spain and I convinced him that he had to wash himself down with a garden hose pipe before getting into the pool. So what had happened, Mark and I went down to the pool And we found the shower because it was tucked away down the side. So we got in the shower and then we jumped in the pool and was having a swim. And Alan came down and we went, oh, you've got to go and you've got to have a shower. And Alan's looking around, can't find the shower. And Mark said, oh, no, just use that hose. So there's Alan standing in the middle of the grass, holding the hose like this with it sprinkling him. And everyone around the pool pissing themselves laughing. Until Alan suddenly went, hang on a minute, there's something going on here. And this was Mark tormenting Alan, which he spent a lot of time doing. Oh. Mark says, psychologists talk about the 5 stages of loss and grief, and following the extreme shock and sadness of Alan's death, I found myself moving into the next phase and asking, what the fuck have you gone and done now, Alan? You see, Alan could be a little bit accident prone. Yes, I remember the firework going into the garden shed, which coincidentally housed all the other unlit fireworks. The breaking of the glass oven door on Christmas Eve, much to Tracy's annoyance and difficulty in cooking Christmas dinner. And the time he tried to set me up with a girl in a nightclub. Pulling her up to dance with me, not realising that she was disabled, had no use of her legs, and her wheelchair was parked in the corner. And he says, you couldn't make some of this stuff up. And it's true, it's true. You couldn't make some of this stuff up. He then says, Alan will be a great loss to everyone and a greater loss to me. His legacy is the fantastic memories of friendship he's left behind. Alan, my friend, my best friend. Cheers, mate. Oh, there we have Mark making me cry. I can't even look at what I wrote because it just kills me. This is from like the patriarch and matriarch of our Amdram Society, Carolyn Graham. Alan was one of life's gentlemen, kind, caring, reliable, and always ready for a laugh. There was a large void left in the Biggin Hill Musical Theatre Company when he, and indeed Tracy, left for foreign shores. He was held in high regard by both Graham and myself, and indeed the whole company. Our thoughts and love go to Tracy, with many happy memories of shows and social gatherings shared. And from Tracy and Phil, Alan, or Wingnut, as Kaylee lovingly referred to him, who was the baby born 4 days before our wedding, and is about to turn 16 just to scare me, will always have a place in our hearts. Not just because we feel he and Phil were separated at birth, because they do look alike, but because of the many fun times together. As we sit here now, we remember Alan's tours. Alan was a great organiser, and he organised 2 trips for us and some of our Amdram friends, one to Paris and one to Cologne. And in Cologne, there was an advert at one point where a child was running around behind its father going, Dad, I want a, whatever the advert was for, and I can't remember what it was for. But yeah, Dad, I want a whatever. And we spent the whole holiday in Cologne, 7 adults running around behind Alan going, Dad, I want a sausage, Dad, I want a sausage, Dad, I want a sausage. We did have some laughs. The way he always had to tell you white was black just because he liked to make you think about another way of looking at things. When he played my dad in High Society, because he was the only one tall enough to be Tracy's dad, she's 6'2". The stockings behind the apron in Cabaret, because my sweet husband, all 6'3" of him, when he was in Cabaret, opened the second half with a kick line. He had a full-length apron that came to the floor, and when he turned his back and whistled on the girls for the kick line, he was in fishnet stockings, suspenders, little pair of black panties, and heels like this. And my poor friend Helen, who used to take me home from work occasionally, would, bless her heart, come in for a cup of tea, because Alan's tea was legendary, and we would find Alan mincing up and down my living room, trying to learn how to walk in his high heels. So yes, the man who made me the person I am today, the man who filled my heart with love and my life with joy. I still miss him every day. I find it impossible almost to have any conversation where he isn't mentioned. And I love the fact that almost 5 years after he died, people who didn't really know him that well, because we were here about 6 years before he died, these people here in Greece still talk about Alan with such fond memories and with such love. And I just want them to know that I love them for that. And Alan would love them for their support of me. So darling, this one is just for you. You will always be in my heart, always. And I love you. And I miss you. And Flakia.